Aloha, everyone. Happy Aloha Friday. And it is FYLPRO Fridays. I'm here in
Yes.
Hawaii, but my special guest today is coming to us from Carson, Fred Docdocil. Woo!
Hello, Mabuhay everybody. How are you?
Mabuhay. And of course, Fred and I are on the board together of FYLPRO. And that's how I've had the pleasure of really getting to know you, Fred, and working on the
Yes.
amazing things that you do. And you, of course, have a very full plate. But before we get to that, I wanted you to at least update our members and our viewers on what you've been up to since the immersion program.
Yeah, so the immersion program for me happened back in 2019, which was fortunate because that was a year that I would have maxed out in terms of being a youth. And plus that was the last time we actually had an immersion trip back to the motherland. So it was certainly opportune timing for me. And in that time, I've been the branch coordinator and the business development coordinator for Mabuhay Credit Union, which is a division of Nikkei Credit Union. We're proud to say we're among the very first full service financial institutions specifically serving the Filipino and greater community out of the South Bay, Los Angeles area. Obviously, the last couple of years has changed, most of the things that we've taken for granted. But I do, like you mentioned, I do keep a pretty full schedule. I tell people to wear a lot of hats, literally and figuratively. And one of the biggest ones coming up for me is actually the Philippine Independence Day celebration here in the city of Carson. I'm the president of the Philippine Independence Day Foundation, and our celebration here was initially celebrated back in 1986, and for the last 19 years now, it's been the Philippine Independence Day Foundation that has spearheaded this celebration in conjunction with the city of Carson. And we're pretty unique in the sense that the city of Carson, there's just under 100,000 population, 20% of which are of Filipino descent. So as you can imagine, there's a
20%
lot of us
only?
out here.
For some reason, I thought
Well,
it was a lot
well,
more.
next to Hawaii, it's roughly 20,000 here in the city, but in the surrounding South Bay, Los Angeles area, well, I mean, Southern California in general, there's like 850,000,
Yeah.
right? So a big chunk of that is in the South Bay, Los Angeles area. I know you're from Southern California, so you're familiar, right? But here in Carson, in particular, not only do we celebrate Philippine Independence Day, but Fourth of July is also Phil-Am Friendship Day. We celebrate the entire month of October as Philippine American History Month. October 25th is Larry Itliong Day. We celebrate the Bataan Day of Valor, and we actually celebrate Rizal Day twice here on his birthday, as well as the anniversary of his martyrdom. So, needless to say, the community here is very active, very vibrant Filipino community, and that's definitely one of the big reasons why we selected Carson to be the home of Mabuhay Credit Union.
Yeah, I think always when being from LA, Koreatown, area, I've always associated Carson as being Filipino town. Even though, I also grew up near historic
Right,
Filipino
right.
town, which, it's the temple area where they just opened the gateway. So
Yes,
that was
exactly.
it was great.
It's
So and
it's it's interesting because obviously there's certain pockets throughout not just Southern California, but nationally, right? And Carson, I would definitely put Carson up there with all the other pockets in terms of not just the number of the community, but the density of the population. And we certainly have our share of passionate community leaders that that represent our community well, and I'm glad to say that I have a few of those that have mentored me over the years. So hopefully, collectively we can all represent our community as best we could.
yeah, no, for sure. And of course, our Lizelle president, Lizelle Tangla, also from Carson. So
Yes.
huge representation from the community there. And obviously it's our 10-year anniversary of the organization. We're reflecting with our alumni on, how that experience has kind of translated into their everyday work. And obviously, you're embedded, you're there, you're in the community, you're leading, you're part of all these organizations. I saw your bio. I mean, plus you're a family man. I mean, how do you balance that all? How do you, I guess, juggle all of the many hats that you're doing?
Well, let's just say, Google Calendar is a good friend of mine. But I think the good thing for me is that I don't really consider each and every one of them work. It's always been a passion of mine, in terms of community service. And whenever there's community events, if I'm able to, I definitely bring my family along, to just to enjoy spending time with them, in addition to supporting the community. But suffice it to say that, that's been a big part of my role here within the credit union. Certainly on the business development side, is to support these community events and activities, a decent number of which I actually have the pleasure of also, organizing myself. So it's really fun, and it's a matter of picking projects which, again, are near and dear to me, and it just so happens that, that's within the PhilAm and the Asian Am community, the space in general. So yeah, certainly it has its share of challenges, but if you enjoy something, you find a way, right? If you don't, you find excuses to say.
I know. Well, and obviously you're in the financial space, so and helping, I guess, our kababayan with whatever dreams that they have, whether it's home ownership or just
Yes.
saving for their college, for their kids or whatever. What are some of the, I guess, challenges that you find for our community when it comes to building wealth and
Yes,
savings and all that?
sure. Well, unfortunately, there's a few. When our parent company, Nikkei Credit Union, which traces our roots back to 1951, when they decided to expand, they took a look at the other top four Asian groups here in the South Bay. They looked at the Chinese, the Koreans, the Indians, and the Filipinos. And in doing the market research, what we realized was that Filipino Americans, despite the fact that we're either second or third largest Asian group in the US, we really, up until recently, we didn't have our own full service financial institution supporting us. So what that means is that if we needed, a checking account or a savings account, we had to go outside of our community. And that's basically the genesis for Mabuhay Credit Union. And unfortunately, because of that lack of support, there has also been a lack of financial literacy within the community. For the most part, the extent of the financial training, if you will, that we receive from our folks, from our parents, is go to school, study hard, and get a good job. Usually, you don't really get any of the additional steps beyond that. And part of my role in running Mabuhay Credit Union is, I provide financial literacy seminars and workshops across different levels. I mean, I've worked with the Philippine Overseas Labor Office to do a seminar for Philippine overseas workers. I've also conducted workshops and seminars for students, college, high school, and even middle school students, just to give them kind of the basics, because let's face it, within our community, we don't really talk about money all that much, unless we're
Why
talking about
not?
what
What
we
is
bought
it?
recently. There's just something about it. I don't want to quite call it taboo, but there's a lack of savviness to say, like in other terms. But yeah, it's just something that is certainly not around the dinner table. Like, oh, this is, I'm making this much, and whatever the case is. If there is a financial conversation, is, oh, I bought this bag or this car or
Yes.
whatever, and this is how much it costs.
I was gonna say
So
it's
that's not
almost like
necessarily,
whatever
yeah.
you own reflects
Yes.
wealth, which, may not
It's
necessarily be
definitely
true.
that. Right, absolutely. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people that are going into debt to maintain a lifestyle that is, in keeping up with the Joneses, let's just say, right? And that's definitely sad because, again, before Mabuhay Credit Union, really the extent of the financial services companies that we had were remittance companies, which for PhilAms here in the US means that our money is going out, is going to the motherland, right? But if we ourselves needed to buy a car, buy a house, or get a credit card, again, we had to go elsewhere. So in that regard, that's definitely a big challenge, which we are proactively working to help with. Um, Obviously we serve as many people that we can, but with a name like Mabuhay, it kind of goes without saying that, we serve the Filipino community, not exclusively, but we definitely make it a point to support our kababayans here and elsewhere, but predominantly here in the South Bay, Los Angeles area. So that's what I would say would be the largest obstacle we have, is the lack of the financial literacy within the community, and that mindset of, such and such cousin bought this purse, I'm gonna get one too, or one even better than that, right? And I don't care if I have to to charge it on my credit card, I'm gonna get something better, right? Which not necessarily
It's not a
productive.
smart financial choice.
No, not at all. Yeah.
Are you finding that it's changing with the younger generation? Are they learning a little bit more about being responsible, or is it kind of passed down from their parents?
A lot of it is definitely passed down. I mean, part of what I do when I have these workshops is to do what I can to kind of nip some of these things in the bud, so to speak. But yeah, you definitely see that in some of these kids. We actually have this program. It's called a Bite of Reality, and we work with it's called the RMJ Foundation, and they have this app where predominantly is done for like younger kids, middle school, high school kids, where they're given this is your job, this is your income, and then at the event that we would host, they would have to they would have to pay for housing, they'd have to pay for transportation, for daycare, for entertainment. So for housing, they have the option of getting like this giant mansion. They have like like a 3-bedroom house or an apartment based on your income. Which one do you want? And then we instruct the volunteers to sell them the biggest, most expensive thing. And for a lot of the kids, obviously, they're easily
They
swayed.
get
So
sucked in.
they always want the best of everything. And then I think there's 7 different booths. But by the time they get to the 3rd booth, they're like, oh, I ran out of money for the month already. I need to return this Ferrari that I bought and get, like a decent sedan or something. So it's just having the conversation, really is how you get the some of these concepts to be out in the open, and hopefully we can get beyond what's been passed down. Unfortunately, that's not always the right things, right?
Yeah, that definitely will take several generations to get that out of the system. I mean, I definitely, didn't get any lessons in savings or anything. So I definitely was one of those people that signed up for all the credit cards, the free t-shirts.
I can vouch for that. Me,
Yeah.
myself, I was 18 years old when I migrated here from the Philippines.
Mhm.
And I can tell you the first credit card that I opened because they were giving away free Lakers duffel bags.
Yeah. That's how they
I mean,
get
that's
you.
literally me. And
That's how
then,
they get
I had
you.
no idea what to do afterwards. I kind of had to stumble and learn as I went. That's why whenever I have the opportunity to have these workshops, I jump right in, because obviously on a professional level, it's something that I do, but also on a personal level, especially within our community, it's very near and dear to me as well. So, I get a little bit jealous of these kids because they have that, that background at the very least, the baseline to help them. whereas I kind of had to fumble along. And again, I moved here at 18, so I had no concept of what these things were, you know?
Yeah. Well, to be fair, the people that actually like me that were born here also didn't have very many resources, because
That's
our
true.
parents were also from there. So you
Right,
still get
right.
the same type of lesson, from your parents. But anyway, I think that's a good discussion about really learning the value of saving, being
Yes.
responsible, especially now because things are so expensive.
Yeah.
And also another thing with financial support amongst our community, at least what I've found when I talk to some of our fellow FYLPRO alum, entrepreneurs that are trying to
Yeah.
find investors, trying to find
Yes.
the financial support from our community for their business models, right? What are you seeing on your end? Are you finding, our small business owners having trouble getting capital?
Uh, yeah, that unfortunately that is a pretty common problem. I'm actually a founding director of the PhilAm Chamber of Commerce here in the South Bay LA area 10 years ago. Uh, and unfortunately, majority of Filipinos has the what's called the employee mindset. I talked to you earlier about the financial training that we get from our parents is go to school, study hard, get a good job. Usually it's not go start your own business. And when you start your own business, capital is obviously an important piece to that. Unfortunately, a lot of times, not just in business, but like the same is true for like our athletes, for instance, our performers. There's usually not that much support when someone is barely getting started. When they succeed, oh, there's all this Pinoy pride and
Yeah,
oh, Pacquiao is
yeah.
Filipino, this Apple Diap and Olivia Rodrigo. But some of the other ones that are kind of getting started, and again, this is especially true for entrepreneurs and small business owners. Unfortunately, a lot of times you have to get the support externally first and kind of prove yourself before those that are closer to your circle. And I really can't explain why that is. I mean, in theory, you're supposed to reach out to those, near and dear to you for that initial support. But from our local community, it's just something that I almost across the board, it's a recurring challenge. And I think part of it is that whole um, in the Philippines, they call it export quality. Whenever a product
Oh,
is deemed to be export quality, that means, oh, it's not supposed to be for the Philippine general population. It's good enough to where it could be sold outside of the country. And I think that's the mindset that we kind of carry here. If somebody is making, I don't know, like medals or sashes or whatever, right? It's like a home business. Um, what's the first thing that your friends and family are going to ask you for? Hookups. Can you give me
discount.
the friends and family rate, right? But if they went to, the mall, they're not going to second guess the price. They're going to be paying full price on it. And not to say that that's right, but unfortunately, that is something that you see out there. And unfortunately, I'm still in the process of finding out how to fix that. It's certainly an issue, but collectively, I think it's going to take a lot of looking inwards and acknowledging that there is a problem for us to even get to the point where we can fix that problem.
Yeah, I think, and that's the biggest criticism I've heard from business owners and entrepreneurs is that unlike other AAPI communities like the Chinese or the Koreans or the Japanese, right? There's really this cohesive community support. Like they come
Yes.
out and support a business if it's one
Right.
of their own. Whereas if it's a Filipino one, we don't have that same, what's the word I'm looking for? Just that, all the community really coming together for that one business. I don't know. Is that something you've seen also?
Well, the Filipino term for that is well, officially it's the Bayanihan spirit, the
Mm.
community coming together to lift ourselves from within,
Mm-hmm.
right? But one of the challenges that I know that is, it's actually a double-edged sword for the Filipino American community, is the fact that our culture is very westernized. Obviously, the fact that we were, a colony of the U.S. for 50 years played a big role on that. And again, we're celebrating the 124th anniversary of the proclamation of Philippine independence, but we didn't really get our own independence until 46, right? So even after we got our sovereignty as a country, we were still, for lack of a better term, we were still America's little brown brother in Asia, right? So a direct result of that is that, with English being the medium of instruction in the Philippines, a lot of Filipinos, when they move here, they're fairly proficient in English, right? Now, that being said, unlike those other Asian communities that you mentioned, where if a company were to specifically target them via ads, they would have to translate their message into whatever language it is, whether it's Vietnamese, Chinese, Spanish, whatever the case is.
Mm-hmm.
For Filipinos, what works for the mainstream works for us. So
Mm.
that being said, they don't need to specifically target us as a demographic. Because again, what works for Tom, Dick and Harry is going to work for the Filipino community. And that being said, um, we're a lot of times we're kind of taken for granted, even from within the community. And again, that goes back to that whole export mentality mindset that I mentioned earlier. I think it's changing because there's definitely that sense of pride whenever you see something, particularly, businesses that offer well-made products and services that really make a difference, and those things that it makes you proud to be able to support them, and they're a good representation of our community. So again, it's unfortunately it's not going to happen overnight, but I'm seeing some encouraging steps in that direction. So hopefully that changes for the better sooner rather than later. So it's going to
Yeah.
take a little while, but there's movement there.
I think at least the conversations are happening. We
Yes.
have young leaders like yourself that are really pushing the conversation, really trying to, question some of the old ways of thinking that we've had. That's where it starts, right? So, but
Yes.
hopefully, because on the same boat as you, I feel like, as I teach my own children also, right? It's like
Yes.
we need to kind of break the repetition, the cycle, and
Cycle. Yeah.
yeah. And then sometimes my mom will weigh in and say, "Oh, we didn't do it like that." But then you'll just have to say, "Well, this is how we have to function in our
Right.
society nowadays." But no, I agree with you. I feel like we're starting to get to the point where at least people are questioning some of the things that we're used to seeing in our
Right.
community.
Yeah.
So,
I, in certain respects, it's a little bit of an uphill battle when you're going against tradition, especially in a culture where there's an emphasis and extra respect deemed towards the elders,
yes,
right? Which
yes,
that's certainly noteworthy. But at the same time, too, if there's a valid reason why we should shift the mindset, let's not just turn it away at face value. Let's talk about it, and if it can help, let's implement those changes.
well, and that's why it takes a little bit longer for us, right? Because we're playing this balancing game of let's not disrespect, but
Yes.
we need to change. We need to move with the times, evolve,
Right.
because it's harming our community and we're being left behind, obviously, right?
Yes.
You see,
Unfortunately.
yeah, you see all this funding or these money infrastructure already in other cultures, but our culture is still, lacking a lot of the resources that we could be getting.
Yes. Yes. And unfortunately, that is something that is, fairly prevalent out there. But yeah, to your point about like kind of stuck in the old ways. I mean, as you mentioned, I'm involved in a number of different organizations, Philam and Asian Am organizations, and there's certainly that mindset that there's a need for fresh blood, so to speak, and, younger leaders to pass the proverbial torch. But we also have to take note that passing the torch means letting go.
And there are some people
Sometimes.
that don't want to let go.
Oh
They don't want to
yeah.
let go.
I'll be the advisor, but you have to do exactly what I tell you to do.
I
No,
know. So you're not really letting go.
no, I mean it's again, it's going to take a while. I mean, there's just like with any other community, there's some challenges certainly, but again, I think it's going to take uh, a critical eye from within to identify the problem areas. And let's be honest with ourselves. If something isn't working and then needs, adjusting or just scrapping and changing completely, again, let's talk about it.
Let's start with the conversation. So, but like I
Yes.
said, I appreciate all the hard work that you put into the community and obviously nationwide too. And we are marking such a big milestone for us here at FYLPRO,
Yes.
10 years. As we reflect, Fred, on,
Yes.
the future and where we are obviously wanting to take the organization and where your role, obviously, as one of the leaders of the organization, where do you see us? How can we better leverage what we have in our networks to uplift all of our communities?
I think we're already taking strides in that direction. I mean, as of last year, we've opened up our membership not just to the alumni of the immersion program, yourself obviously included, right? So that gives us access to a lot of other passionate and talented leaders, again, such as yourself, within the organization. I definitely would love for us within the next 10 years or hopefully less, but to continue to make inroads in our mission of building bridges, not just for the Filipino Americans here in across the U.S., but on a global scale. I mean, the Philippine diaspora, has about 10 million Filipinos globally. That's a lot of people, right? I mean, granted, 4.5 million of those are here in the U.S., but there's a lot of individuals who look like us, might not necessarily speak like us or think like us, but definitely share that same, the culture, the love for a country that we do, and being able to pass that culture, that heritage to the next generation, which again we started last year when we did mentoring. I had an opportunity to become a mentor to a young student, and that was actually something that I didn't realize that I could be selfish while being selfless. That's actually really fulfilling. Just giving tips about life in general, because again, sometimes that's not really something that, as a culture, as a community, we do. But within FYLPRO, we do have that kind of vehicle to provide that for a community. So I'd love for us to continue in that trajectory, and to just better serve our community.
Yeah, no, I agree with you immensely. We all have very taxing schedules and obviously multiple hats like yourself.
Yes,
But
right.
there's always time, I think, like you said, just to help build up the next generation, which is exactly what this organization is founded on, right? Is helping the next generation, empowering us, helping us to kind of give our community a voice, right? So
and as parents, you and I both, obviously that's very, very near to us, but not just our own kids, but the community at large as well.
Yeah. And I'm so proud. I feel like, I meet young people out there all the time, like here in Hawaii, who are doing amazing things that I never thought, when I was their age that I would be doing. Or we have a group of kids that are doing a Filipino history curriculum here.
Nice. Yeah.
So things like that. I think people are embracing it, and we're seeing a lot more role models. And so I'm glad that you're able to do the mentorship, because I think that's such a big part of empowering our youth also.
Yes, for sure. Absolutely.
But anyway, it's so good to catch up, Fred. I know we don't usually get to chat. When we do our FYLPRO board meetings, there's not much time to really chat.
True. Yeah, we get business done first.
Yes. But we do have some amazing programming all the time on FYLPRO.org, obviously, and then also our July event. Are you going to be there? Are you going?
Yes, I'm going. That's in DC for our 10th anniversary. I'm not entirely sure how many people registered for that, but I'm hoping it's going to be a big chunk out of roughly 100 members throughout the country. So I'm definitely looking forward to that this July.
I will have to join by Spirit if there's a virtual component, because I have to work. But I definitely am excited to see everyone, at least through their pictures and through videos and things.
Oh yeah, that part is a given.
Yay!
So we did talk about having a hybrid component to it. So folks that are not physically present can still participate.
Yeah, I'll try to. I'd want to do that. At least try to come for a reception or some sort of happy hour, virtual happy hour.
Those are always fun, right?
Yes, but Fred, it's so good to catch up. Till next time. Thank you for sharing your insights with us, and definitely, you guys, if you are in Carson, you have to check out the Filipino Festival next weekend.
Yes. Filipino Independence Day celebration, Saturday, June 4th. It's a full day affair. 7:30 a.m. till 6 p.m. at Veterans Park here in the city of Carson.
So fun. All right. Thanks, Fred. You have a good day. I will see you soon.
Likewise. Yes. Take care. Stay safe, and mabuhay.
Mabuhay.